Well, hello again, and welcome back to my second video on how to manage your stress and how to feel better. You're listening in to the world's leading psychologist, according to my kids, and a big hello to all my fans all over the world, America, China, Europe, Australia, that I wish I had, but I don't yet. So welcome, and I hope you find these tips on managing and enhancing your life, managing your stress and enhancing your life somewhat useful. Okay, well, tip number one, and this is an important one because most of us at times feel quite alone. But the main point here is you are not alone. Very often we feel things like, am I the only one getting panic attacks? Am I the only one who feels lousy about myself? Am I the only one who everyone hates, or I feel everyone hates me? And the reality is, no, you're not alone. The reality is, people probably don't hate you either. So we have to remember that we're not alone. There was an interesting study done, or survey done, by the English National Health Service. Well, it's probably the British National Health Service, and they checked out how many people were on antidepressants, and they discovered that there were 50 million people on antidepressants. And guess what the population of Great Britain is? About 60 million. So we're walking along the street thinking, gosh, everyone else seems so happy and settled and adjusted. Well, no, we all suffer at different times. And the great thing to remember is that we can do something about it as well. Tip number two, and it's straightforward, but we really do need to sort of remind ourselves to do this, and that is to have an attitude of gratitude. Oftentimes, we spend a lot of the time regretting or giving out or feeling bad about things that are happening in our lives. And we actually miss some of the most fantastic things that are in our lives. For instance, we have family, we have health, we live in a beautiful country, we have very moderate climate, we don't experience tornadoes or things like that. So there's many things that we can be grateful for, and I think it's important that we remind ourselves. So here's a little task for all of my listeners. Tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to write down 2 things that were good today, that you feel gratitude for. And there's something for everybody there. There's always something that we can be grateful for. But I think it's very good for our own mental health to focus on what are some of the positive things in our lives rather than what are some of the negative things. All right, so we're on to tip number 3. And in order to manage our stress, feel in control, we can, what I like to call, soothe the senses. We have 5 senses. There's the sense of smell, there's the sense of sound, there's the sense of sight, the sense of touch, and the 5th one is the sense of taste. So let's just go through them briefly. And there's nothing terribly deep about this, but the sense of smell, how can we enhance the sense of smell? Well, wear some nice perfume or aftershave. How about that? It'll make us feel instantly better. What about a diffuser? Have it in your room. Smell has a huge impact on our well-being, and it goes very deeply into our psyche. For instance, I'm sure many of you will have noticed or come across a smell and it reminded you of something possibly even 20 years ago or 30 years ago. That's how strong and how influential the sense of smell is. And we can influence it in a positive way by investing in a few smellies. And even, what about a nice sort of bath with nice bath salts? All of that will be very good for our feeling of well-being. The sense of sound, is our second one of the senses that I'm going to talk about. And personally, I love kind of space ambient sort of music. Some people like the sound of waves lapping. To me, it makes me feel a little bit seasick. just shows you we all have different tastes when it comes to the kind of sounds that will soothe us. But there is a sound that will soothe all of us. So either if you're on YouTube or Spotify or whatever it might be, I mean, sometimes there are radio stations that have programs with just soft music. Great way of helping us get off to sleep is to have nice ambient soft music in the background. So the sense of sound, our hearing, we can really impact our stress levels. Sight, the third sense, our sense of sight. Why not surround ourselves with colours? Both in our how we decorate our house, the clothes that we wear. One of the things I discovered when I was doing a little bit of research on this was that grey, which you might think is a very sort of dull colour, but it offsets all other colours. So it's a great foundation, and it'll make the other colours look well, whether it's painting your house or whether it's wearing some nice clothes that will make you feel good. But it's well worth investing in nice, colourful clothes. So the fourth then sense that we need to look at is the sense of touch. And the obvious one here is massage. And we don't have to go out and pay for massage, but I think it's well worth considering. But we can do self-massage. Even having a nice, relaxing bath is a form of massage. I was recently at the hypnotist Paul McKenna's presentation in Dunleary, and he was talking about havening. And havening is basically where you start massaging yourself and being gentle on yourself when you put your hands up around your arms and shoulders and start massaging yourself. But there's various different types of self-massage, and again, lots of websites and YouTube sites that'll teach you about how to massage yourself. So the sense of touch, very good area to invest in when we're looking after our stress. And then the fifth sense is the sense of taste. And again, here we can actually massage our internal organs if we eat the right food and drink the right drinks. So things like avoiding too much carbohydrates, obviously, too much sugar, we're going to actually feel better. And there are lots of sites again on around the web on what are the best types of foods and tastes that will actually make us feel less stressed. All right, tip number 4. This is a strange one, but I think hear me out on this one. We need to embrace adversity. How can we learn, or what can we learn when things go wrong? They say about the snowflake generation that they don't encounter nearly enough adversity. I think the point being is that we actually learn a lot more in the valleys than the peaks. We don't learn so much when things go well, but when things go wrong, we certainly do learn from that. I have a couple of phrases that I usually like to mention, like no rain, no rainbows. Or, when life serves you lemons, let's make lemonade. Or my favourite of all, my favourite tennis player who has sadly retired, Ashley Barty from Australia, she said it when she lost a match and she was kind of wondering why were they making such a fuss. And her phrase was, you're either winning or you're learning. So if you're not winning, you're learning. Remember that. Adversity teaches us things, but we need to look for that lesson when things go wrong. So today's tip number 5 and our final one today, and it's to learn how to say no. Because too often we make commitments that we actually can't fulfill and it causes a lot of stress for us, all because we're afraid to say no. And it's an important aspect of saying no is that you don't have to provide an excuse. Remember that. You don't have to provide an excuse when you say no. No is no. Just remember that. And we need to practice that. The world's not going to cave in. People aren't going to not talk to you anymore. In fact, they'll probably understand or respect you that much more if you say no. So that's it for today. If you've made it this far, thanks very much. And I look forward to giving you some more tips on how to live a better life, how to feel less stressed, and how to feel more in control. So I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.